As you set up your exercises, you need to decide on an order. Now, there's some basics that we'd all follow. So, if you were doing more isolated training, you go big muscle to small muscle. Some theories are you wouldn't fatigue the core. Some theories are you would fatigue the core first. There's a lot of sort of different ways of putting the exercise in order in terms of would you squat first or would you push and pull first. And so you can make an argument in most cases for most orders. But also there's systems around orders. And so these systems, in my opinion, for most clients are about the entertainment value, about how you get the client to exercise as hard as you want without them feeling bored, and with them feeling excited that you train them in the way that they asked when you sort of first met them. And so there are some sort of benefits. So if you could sort of reduce rest time if you did an opposite push to pull, or a pre-exhaust might be a way of getting that extra bit of fatigue in the muscle. Circuit could be good if you're with a small group. You've got a beginner and you're trying to teach them the moves. And the sort of superset closed to open chain is something that might be something you want to look at when you're trying to get people to think sort of more about their movement. Perhaps it's more neurologically based. But the bottom line is that when you're building your program, you want to be as close to the sport as possible, as close to what they do as possible, or you want to be some distance away so you can lay down some conditioning. And although the mechanics will be similar, perhaps it's the system that just takes them away from what they're doing, just to allow you to get some adaptation or some skill development or some physical change or whatever your goal is. And so here are 4 systems that you could use. So initially we have pre-exhaust, and here we've done something a little more functional looking. So the pre-exhaust, we're getting Mike here to do a one-legged squat. We are, after all, that sort of knee abduction and everything, but it's a safe range for him. That might not be the range for everyone. And the idea here is we're trying to make it as tough as possible for the glute to be involved in that motion. So we hit quad, and then we go to a more integrated movement that hits quad but now brings the glute in to sort of play and help with the motion. So pre-exhaust the quad by making it do the one-legged squat on its own, and then go straight to a one-legged squat where we bring the glute in just to bring the glute in. And this, you'll see these videos at real time later on in the module. You'll be able to click straight on them. So the next system I want to show you is opposite load. And we sort of do this instead of antagonist and agonist back to back, just because most muscles are involved in most motions if you're following the faster system. So here we've gone with a pull and a push, and we've tried to make them opposite directions and just done them straight after each other so we can reduce rest time. And it's quite good if you want to sort of bring up the cardiovascular requirement in the exercise. If you've got that client that just wants to come in, bash out their sets and go, that's quite a good way of setting up their the exercise. I quite like it for sports that involve transition, where you're doing one thing, move to another. It's quite nice to use this sort of system in that scenario. So the open to close chain, this is where we're looking at sort of a squat and then say a squat thrust, and it's just a way of moving through the hips really in a similar way in terms of the muscle action, but in a completely different way sort of neurologically. And so this is quite challenging and quite a cool way of doing a superset. You could also do things like something on a bench followed by a press up, that kind of idea. And so it's a good way of getting your client up and down, and it can lead into other kinds of circuits. I quite like it again with clients who go through transitions, and maybe I don't do so many sets and then put a third exercise in that's a sprint or a run. So then we have the straight circuit. So this is just doing one exercise after another. Really good for skill development, really good for small groups, and you can play with everything. So we're playing here with a frontal plane. So we go steel bell, then we go straight into the Viper, and then we move from the Viper straight over to the Dynamax. Here he goes, putting in that work look. Straight over to the Dynamax. All frontal plane. So we could come around again and do transverse, and come around again and do sagittal. And this is more of a sort of general conditioning circuit. So move on to the running ladder, which is a little more aerobic. And so he's doing the alley shuffle there. And he's doing it kind of reverse. Normally you'd be going into the ladder forwards, not backwards. And then we finish with a lunge that's frontal plane dominant and just loaded straight on the back. And that's sort of quite a good outdoor training circuit and quite a good system to look at. The final movement we're doing is a core stick, and there we're hitting obliques and glutes. So it's a nice little circuit to sort of take you around. It's just an example of what to do, and it's just basically just load up those exercises one after another.